Hey everyone, TimaeuSS. Welcome to another NIKKE video. So thank you for your comments and feedback on the previous CN tier list video. So now we're here again today, as promised, in the JP tier list. And I've got not only one, but two. So one is from GameMerch and the other from Kamige. And they've got two different tier lists, and let's just see why they are kind of different, even though they're both from Japan. So let's take a look at the first one, which I think is more accurate in my opinion, the GameMerch one. So of course, at the very start, we actually see very similar rankings to the CN tier list that we looked at in the previous video, right? Because we've got the tier list arranged in the bursts, so burst 1, burst 2, burst 3, and both tier zeros across burst 1 and burst 2 is the same as CN. Litter at the very top for tier 0 and the Dola at the very top for tier 0 and burst 2. The glaring difference that I can see, of course, is that they've ranked Admi and Uni a lot higher in the JP tier list versus the CN one. And in my CN one, I talked about how I really like Uni because both Admi and Uni right now as accessories to Scarlet, it just makes her super strong. And they've pushed units like Yunhua down below where it was ranked much higher in the CN one. So I think I'm going to be a bit biased, and I think I like the JP one a bit more. Nothing else stands out from burst 1, burst 2 at the moment, and of course they've got Rapunzel a lot higher too, because of that max HP scaling versus for example the global tier list Pride one at the moment. So interesting to see that. And the Pepper is still tier 1 even though her heal is a bit bugged, so it's a bit, you know, not as good as supposed to be, but she does deal crazy amounts of damage, so I can see why she's there. But overall, tier 1 and tier 2 are very similar. So let's take a look at tier 3, because I think that's when things are a bit different. Okay, so in tier 3, Scarlet at the very top of tier 0, and Heron after that, Heron or Heron. It's the reverse for CN, okay, where it's Heron then Scarlet, and for the global one, it's T0 Scarlet only, and then Heron. Okay, so in thinking that regard, there's no denying that both of these units are at the very top in terms of burst 3, which is usually the slot reserved for your highest damage dealers. But what's interesting is that they ranked Yuha at T2. So as we know, Yuha doesn't rank very high on the global nor the Japanese tier list at the moment. But for the CN tier list, Yuha is tier 0, right next to Scarlet. That's because of the 90% attack buff. They really value that. So I think, again, CN is the only tier list that puts Yuha as high of a rating, whereas everyone else just puts her down below. So very interesting to see those ratings. And they have Helm rated as T2. So I'm going to assume, because it's burst 3, she's in T2 with the likes of Isabel, Yuha, Maiden, Vesti, Rappy. So not that good in terms of ranking wise, all right? And what they're saying is Basuskiru, so she has supportive skills that replenishes HP, and Jibuno buff, and she has no self buff. Okay, Sky Nike. And I think they're saying that her auto battle is not that great either. My Japanese is a bit rusty. If you watch my Japanese live stream translation, I could use some work. But anyhow, it's basically saying Helm is a tier 2 right there, which I think Helm does a bit more in terms of enabling the rest of your comp. So I wouldn't necessarily put her at tier 2, but again, every tier list is subjective, okay? People can agree and disagree. So we're trying to find the common ground. So they've put stuff like Privity, Drake, and Sugar in tier 1 because of their damage, and I think shotgun comps between Sugar and Drake is still very strong in interception battles such as the Gravedigger. And again, for team comps, I'll create a separate video. I'll release that if you guys are interested. It's going to take a lot of kind of research and testing, so it will take some time, but I'll release that, okay? But yeah, so this is the first one, the first JP tier list that they've updated since the 9th. So is this 9th? Because before Helm came out after the 9th, so I think they just didn't update the date. But this is for sure their most up-to-date tier list on GameMerch. Okay, oh, and they have comments. So the tier 0 ones, again, CD reduction on the burst, as we know, and extremely strong attack and crit for Scarlet, and super good damage, AoE damage from Heron. So that's how they rank these units. Very good. So we'll go to the other tier list, which I think is kind of whack. All right, a bit whack. So this is the Kami game tier list. So right off the bat, we have SS tier Privity. They're ranking SS Privity as SS because it's got really high AoE attack and damage and a 3-second stun. So personally for me, I think Privity is an S tier, and everyone gets Privity for free. So if you have a base copy, it's an instant +1, right? In the limit breaking department, which I really like. Okay, I really like that. But I wouldn't rank her as SS because when you got units like Scarlet and Heron, she doesn't justify the SS rating. And interesting note, okay, this tier list coming game, the reason why I don't think it's the best one is because Scarlet used to be in either A or B, okay, and it's climbed its way up from B to A and now to S, and I'm sure it's going to evolve into SS some point or another. All right, so in the rest of the tier list, Polly is very good, I agree with that, but Litter as an SS and then not having Dollar there kind of is weird because that means you don't value Dola's CD reduction, burst CD reduction as much, because for all other tier lists, Dola is ranking ranked much higher if we do the burst comparison, right? So this, I would be assuming it's not ranked by burst because you don't have the burst breakdown. Rather, it's taking an approach that's similar to the global one that we have in Pridewind. So they've got a lot of SS units that, frankly, I think are really good, but I'm not sure if all 6 of them are SS when Scarlet is down there. And then for the S, you've got Emma, Soline, Pepper, Mary, Dola, Volume, Snow White, Rapunzel, Noah, a newer one that we see at the very top, and Helm. Okay? And looking at the lower side of things, the rest seems fairly standard. In stark contrast to the other JP, Admi and where is it? Yeah, Admi and Uni, they're tier 1, but here it's like B tier, right? Not even tier 1. Not forget like tier 1 or tier 2. They're just straight up tier 3. So even with the Japanese community, there are a lot of different, I guess, rankings and tier lists. So it just shows how subjective these are, and you should always make your own decision after trying them out. They're only references, okay? They're only references, and I think the only tier list you should go by is my acid tier list, because the jiggles don't lie. But let's take a look at some of their SS explanations. So Polly is very good because it's offensive and defensive, and then boosts 3 skill 3 about it. Oh, it provides, okay, so this is wrong. It says skill 3 provides an AoE barrier, okay, and greater attack buff. The buff for the attack is there, but the barrier is broken right now. So Polly only applies that barrier to herself in battle, so that doesn't apply. If it applied all barriers across the entire team, I think she'll be extremely good. I would, yeah, personally, I would put her like S, if not SS, because the buff is fantastic and survivability is awesome as well. Basically, almost in a way, could you say a better Helm? Because of damage share, she has that too, right? But looking at everything else, yeah, not really in terms of, you know, explanations here. Let's see what they say. If we, this guy, oh, let's go back, sorry. They're talking about, because I'm curious to see what they have said about Miranda. Skill 3, okay, so it's got attack. Okay, I need to read up Miranda's skill, but they're saying that skill 1 and skill 2 buffs a lot and very frequently, and skill 3 again makes your unit very strong. So I know Miranda is not bad and ranks tier 1 across all different tier lists, but I'm not sure if that deserves a tier SS. But I don't want to dwell too much on this tier list because I think we will probably be mostly looking at this one because this draws the common ground between the other CN and the global tier list, whereas this one seems to be doing its own thing. But yeah, anyhow, I'm not one to drag the video that long if I can help it. So I'll leave the 2 tier list links in the description. If you want to check it out yourself and use Google Translate, go ahead. Probably I will not go over the Korean tier list, but I will go over the team compositions. So this is the team composition from the CN tier list guide maker. I'll go over that in a different video. He's got different team comms, and we also have some team comms on Pride One that you can look at. So we can see how they, I guess, utilize their tier zeros together, because you can see everyone here is tier 0, even the one Yulha that people really enjoy over at CN. So we can see how that performs. And yeah, hope you guys found this video useful, and I'll see you guys in the next video.